this mayor's race in San Antonio is interesting as we have 27 candidates running for mayor, and 5 of the 27 are Black. Now, we did hear back from a fourth person, but I guess he got tied up, and then the fifth person had other commitments. So what we're going to go ahead and do here is uh, start out with a question and give you guys a couple, 2 or 3 minutes to respond. So here's the first one. What motivated you to even jump into this race?
Who goes
So
first?
Ladies
Who wants to go
first.
first? Ladies
Okay.
first. Go ahead.
Go.
Go ahead, Jade.
Ladies first.
So, when it came down to it, I actually lived in an apartment complex that let me sit in sewage water. And to me, that's not right. And, it's just not right in general. Sewage water is definitely nasty, but it's the fact that it was considered a low income, affordable housing place that really took me to the next level. I was like, well, if I'm going through this, how many other people are going through this? So during this race, a lot of people, over 20 people, have reached out to me telling me what is going on in their home. And like I said, I pull up. I will show up where somebody needs me to be and check out the circumstances. And sure enough, there were several people without roofs, several people with flooded, what have you. And it's just their rights are being violated. So I was like, let me be that person, because with my situation, I called the city, I called poison control, I ended up in the hospital. It was a disaster. So I wanted to make sure that nobody else has to go through that. And if I had a child, it would have been way worse. On top of that, I have a childcare business that aids families in the other areas that they need help in. So whether it's a doctor's appointment, an event, a field trip, we show up. I will pull up to somebody's school if they're not listening. I will sit in their classroom if they're not listening. I do it all. So when my business got hurt, that's when I was like, okay, that's really what's gonna make me want to fight more, because my business is dedicated to my son that I lost and to my sister who it's named after, who I lost in 2010. So I'm
Wow.
like, you can mess with me, that's cool. But when it comes down to my business, that's when I draw the line. I'm like, okay, we're about to fight. So it just, once I lost all my clientele, and then we were the first ever childcare company to work with the Bridal Extravaganza, I lost all those contracts. So those contracts were actually going to feed into giving out free childcare around San Antonio and surrounding cities. But we lost everything because the apartment complex didn't want me to do anything. They just wanted to end my lease and they left me homeless. Mind you, they had other units because my mom actually stayed 6 doors down from me, because I always got to keep an eye out on mama, because I got to make sure she's all right. So they had units, but they just felt like I was gonna disappear, but I didn't. And so I jumped in the race. God kept putting in my path mayor. I was like, no, that's a big stretch. That is definitely a big stretch. You sure? So I got a third confirmation, and sure enough, I've been riding this long, and I'm gonna continue to fight. So that's why I'm running for mayor.
Okay. Chris Herring, what made you jump into this race?
Yeah, I decided to run for mayor probably in early January. I was on the fence for a long time because I think that politics overall is nasty, and I also think that there's a system of people who have, and they have political power as well. So uh, God put on my heart. It was basically Proverbs 31 that said, "Give voice to the voiceless." And so when I hear stories like Jade's, and I see the African American community, and I see overall um, that the city of San Antonio, of all races and backgrounds, suffer from this thing called generational poverty. It really just strikes a chord. And so I have the education, I have the Chamber of Commerce experience in business. I've been an advocate for the city in business. I have political experiences as well. And those political experiences, I served as a chief of staff for House District 120. I've served at the White House as the chairman for the Department of Defense's One America under President Clinton. I've served two presidents, both Reagan and George W. Bush. So I have experiences that I bring to the table. And I believe that we have 27 candidates who are all trying to be mayor. Many of them say in their speeches that they've learned some things and that they'll study these things as they become mayor. But our city has known for the longest time that the number one reason why we don't attract Fortune 1000 companies is because of generational poverty. And every solution that every mayor has put into place has never struck the bullseye of what does the fix of generational poverty. It's not discussions about the spurs. It's not building a better downtown. It's not making the wealthy wealthier. It's about finally, for the first time, putting the bullseye on treating the least of these. And so I want to take 10 zip codes, the worst zip codes, and give those worst zip codes time and attention and a visible dashboard that will show we're making progress as a city. I know that my experience leading the small business advocacy with the city of San Antonio and as a volunteer for almost a decade, I saw $1 billion of local procurement go to our local marketplace. I was the chairman when the city of San Antonio finally went over 50% of procurement in our local market because I was pushing the city tooth and nail. So I'm here to push even more. And I think that my leadership is going to be excellent for the occasion.
Great. Okay, James J. Melvin.
Well, first of
Same
all, thank you
question. What
for.
motivated you to run?
Well, first of all, I want to thank the other candidates that have joined in, and thank you, Dr. Michael Chadwell, for putting this on. My name is James J. Melvin. Vote J in May. I'm running because of requests that I received 2 years ago to run for mayor. There was various groups, various people throughout the city who I had met from the construction business and from doing their homes as far as renovations, building pools, what have you. And they learned a little bit more about my background. You know, when you're spending weeks at someone's house, you start having discussions. And so they learned a little bit more about me other than just construction. And when they did, they knew of my charity work in San Antonio. You know, they knew that I participated in the Underbridge Ministries. They knew I volunteered at the Haven for Hope. They knew that I utilized the services of Edgewood Independent School District to bring kids into Kansas 5 for field trips. And during those field trips in December, I elicited the help of the fire department. So when the kids left the field trip at Kansas 5, they would go outside and they would say, "Move that truck." And when the truck moved, Santa Claus was there, and then all the bikes that I had bought for them. But I never threw my name in and said, "Hey, I did it," or, you know, I was raised that way. My family has been public servants all our life. So during those charitable situations, you know, I met key individuals in the city and developed a lot of relationships. So that sprung me into receiving those requests. And I prayed about it and came to the conclusion this year that I wanted to run. So here we go. I would like to say that, you know, based upon the citizens of San Antonio, I'm one of the top candidates. I've had people that called me and say, "Hey, we researched you." And they questioned me about the different things they researched, but all of them said that I was a viable candidate. So I'm glad I did run because, you know, the city of San Antonio does need some help. The Black community needs some help. The brown community needs some help. So a lot of the finances that seem to be spent here are spent on, you know, where the most money is made in the city. So I received text messages and phone calls. I know when the two city council members walked out of the meeting because I got a phone call. I know when gangs were pulling the neighborhoods and not letting people in and out because I got the phone call. You know, I know when the Attorney General of Texas sued San Antonio, I got the phone call. So there was things that I knew because of other constituents that was causing problems. So one of them one of the issues that, motivated me to run was we're over $13 billion in debt. So when you have that much debt, which it's going to be some debt because it's a city and we have bonds, but it's almost impossible to give any tax breaks or to help with property tax or anything of that nature because you need to focus on that debt. Then we were ranked second in the state of Texas in crime. So I started working on my Peace in the Streets initiative over 2 years ago, so we can help eradicate that crime. And it's a 3-phase system, which I discussed with the San Antonio Police Officers Association. The first step in that is presence. We want presence everywhere. We want presence in the Black community. And, we want to make sure that how we handle ourselves in the Black community is more welcoming than targeting. So that was the first step. And then the second part was community engagement. When I'm mayor, I want police officers to get out of the car when they go to neighborhoods, Black neighborhoods. I actually talk with the people in the neighborhoods, get to know them. Let's create some type of dialogue between the authoritative aspect of the city and the citizens. And then the third step in that was mental health. Not only mental health for those who create the crime, but mental health for citizens who live in those neighborhoods. There's plenty of Black people in neighborhoods who see crime happen. Are we going next door and talking to them and seeing how we can be an advocate for them? And then, of course, mental health for the police officers and how to handle when they go into Black neighborhoods, how to handle Black youth, how to deal with people who have even been convicted of a crime. So those are some of the things that, motivated me to run that I would like to see improve.
All right,
Vote
then. This
Jay
is
in May.
Vote Jay in May. Okay, this is a great discussion. I'm going to ask my panel partner, my seat buddy on Contemporary Black Voices, Chris Dawkins. Do you have any questions for for our panel?
I sure do. I want to get down and dirty with these individuals. I'm glad that they have showed up. I'm really impressed with that. And James J. Melvin talked about how folks thought that he might be a viable candidate. My questions are geared more towards how you've been treated as blacks, how you've been excluded from these different debates that you've been excluded from, and how do you feel about that? So, the first question I really want to ask is, and you don't have to answer this, but are any of you Republicans? And I know this is a nonpartisan race, but I'm asking that for a specific reason because I want to know if anybody has excluded you for any kind of reason. Although they have not excluded, you know, any of the others who are not black because they're Republican, but I want to know if you're willing to answer uh, if you have any orientation towards that.
I can
I
go
would like to
first.
speak first on that, Chris, if you don't mind,
Sure.
because I want to make sure we stay. I want to make sure we stay in the green. So the mayor seat is bipartisan. So
I know.
no candidate should be saying I'm Republican or Democrat.
Okay.
We're for the people.
Okay.
So I wanted to put that out there first before either one of us made a statement that might be contradictory to running for the office.
Well, I know that's the case, and it's the case in San Antonio. Although you've got Mr. Pablos, you've got Clayton
Well,
Perry, you've got
yeah,
some of the folks who have come out and said that they're that. And the point that I'm making is that you've got some people who want to try to make this they want this to be a Republican town. Out of the major metropolitan areas, San Antonio is probably the least hanging fruit where they think that they can make an inroad.
for myself, I am an independent, and I was labeled by the Texas Tribune as being Republican. And I have to say that my record supports from the military to this point that I've served both Republican and Democrats. I've served Ronald Reagan, I've served George Bush, I've served Bill Clinton as presidents. I had to be independent in order to do that. And then when I came out and served in San Antonio, I've supported campaigns on the Republican side for people like Justice Jason Pulliam. I've served on campaigns on Republican side, and I've also served on Democrats campaigns like Josie Garcia, and I've also served on independents like Laura Thompson, who's a state representative, and I served as her chief of staff. So I don't get caught up into the label, but I do know that it can divide people, especially in a city that is proclaimed to be blue. And with that said, I think that sometimes those labels will actually hurt candidates like myself who don't make a claim to being Republican at all.
Thank you.
So I actually just got endorsed by goodparty.org. And they're nonpartisan, so I'm sticking to the nonpartisan ways. But shout out to my endorsement because that was a huge thing that I achieved today. And I didn't this whole race, I didn't think I was going to get endorsed, but their values and how they put their business together goes and coincides with what I'm running for. So, yeah.
Okay, so
Congratulations.
if
Thank
Sharon
you.
would allow me, I'm sorry.
No, congratulations. That's
Oh,
it was great news.
if she would just allow me, I want to ask, money is never won an election. I mean, it's been an influence in a lot of elections, but when you look at what happened in Wisconsin with Elon Musk putting in so much money into that judicial race, and they basically lost. So the question becomes is most folks want to say the reason why they haven't included you is because you haven't raised the money. Okay. And I'm saying that should not be an issue when you have just seen at this particular point in time in our country that money does not buy a race. I mean, so what is it and how do you feel that you have not been included? And that is the major reason that they want to use that excuse to exclude you.
So I want to take this one, guys. So one thing that was stated during this race is you follow the money, you'll see who somebody is. So I took it upon myself to follow the money when it came to this race. A lot of the money it's coming from an outside source, outside of San Antonio. And why is somebody paying into your race that's outside of San Antonio? It doesn't make sense because we are here for our community, our citizens in San Antonio, but yet you're pulling funds from elsewhere. Mind you, to me, it doesn't matter how much money somebody makes in a race because they're spending it. So if they're showing you they can spend all that money, what are they going to do for your tax dollars? So I also found out that even in San Antonio, there are people getting money from what did they call it? It's not dirty money, but it's bad money. For instance, the people that I'm suing currently, the apartment complex for the affordable housing, they're buying their way into the race currently. So they donated over $14,000 to three candidates. However, they can't fix a sewage filled apartment. They can't, maintain their properties. What's really going on? So of course, follow the money is something that I'm very big on, but it's not what you receive. It's not how you spend it. It's who you are as a person that will stand out the most in this race and what you're fighting for exactly. So what my mom used to say, what's done in the dark will come to the light. So I'm just waiting for that light to shine because it's about to get messy and I stay away from drama, so I'm gonna be somewhere else when the ball drops.
Thank you.
Hey,
Uh,
Curtis Smith.
can
Oh,
I,
I'm sorry.
yeah, I
I'm
just want to
sorry. Go
say,
ahead, Chris.
I know that in December, I saw flyers being made that supported um, that people already had candidates that they wanted to win. So they already had flyers. And so in San Antonio, for those of you who participate in Dream Week had a flyer with four candidates that represented the Latino community. And with that being said, there was no campaign dollars that were even raised at that point in December. In January, the issue was still being pushed, and thankfully, the organizers with Dream Week said that it was not appropriate for them to be favoring certain candidates that did not include the fullness of who could possibly run, to include people like myself. Then I saw that flyer morph into as my brother Christopher Reyes pointed out on the debate stage, that the Asian Alliance decided to use the same group, except they included 2 more council members. The Greater San Antonio Chamber also chose to exclude candidates. The Hispanic Chamber did the same. So when it came to viable African American candidates, we were a threat, I believe, because of how we come across, what we know, and that we can be effective mayors. And that's my problem. And so I determined up front that to play the money game, which is to try to raise the equivalent of the money in which were coming through PACs and so forth when I got in the race, it just wasn't feasible, and it wasn't something I wanted to do. And so that's why I say, look at my record, look at my timeline from when I got here in San Antonio to this point, and you'll see that I've been invested, I've served, I've done my time, I've motivated, I've educated, and now I'm ready to be mayor.
Thank you.
All righty then. Thank you so much. That was a great question, Mr. Dawkins, or questions. Okay, Curtis Smith.
Hello, good evening, everyone. And again, thank you. I know my fellow panelists have thanked you all for being here, so I just wanted to go ahead and reiterate that. I do thank you guys for participating. And so I guess my question is, San Antonio is a very large and a complex city. And so I was just wondering about your managerial qualifications. Have anyone, if you want to speak to your ability to manage large, complex organizations or large, complex systems of government. And again, this question is directed to all of the candidates. And so if you could just take a little bit of time to each address your qualifications to manage such a large entity. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take this real quick because I do have to step out shortly. Yeah, so I was a supervisor for a home health care place, and I had to manage over, what was it, 38, separate accounts, as well as, running my own business. I had to manage over hundreds of thousands of dollars, and advocated to going into care for kids, as well as, I help military families understand their budget, understand how they can, afford childcare in a sense. So it really boils down to the management skills of maintaining those accounts for a long period of time, and how I went about it, and how I, just poured into the knowledge that was set out in front of me. So I think that we all have qualifications in a sense. However, there's a lot of, and I want to thank everybody that was in the military, because they are just, being in the military, I couldn't do it. I have a problem with taking authority, but yeah, so I just, I feel as though I could sit down and function with these accounts that we do have. But knowledge is power. So diving headfirst into understanding, the transactions that are being made, the budgets that are being cut, the budgets that are being funded, is definitely what anybody's going to have to do if they sit in that chair.
Okay.
And I'll answer that question because I'm gonna have to cut out. But when it comes to running any city or organization, it takes a lot of experience in managing people. There's several departments within the city. The city manager, of course, takes a lot of those responsibilities, and that's why he gets paid over $400,000 a year. So there's a lot of responsibilities of that's handled by the city manager. And you got to be able to, of course, understand city politics, understand how the departments work, understand how they tie into the city. So I tell people all the time that life is meant to be lived forward, but understood backwards. So as I go backwards in my thinking, when I was in the United States Navy, I attended Chapman University while I was there. Understood a lot about teamwork, about leadership, and so forth. Leaving the Navy, I went on back to Georgia because my brother got hit by a car. So I went back to Georgia and spent time working at an aviation facility. While I was at this aviation facility, I mean, they built McDonnell Douglas helicopters, 500, 600 series, FedEx cargo planes. I worked on the cargo door area in the beginning. We also built crop dusters. So you're talking about, hundreds of millions of dollars as far as the budget, each year. My experience there and my work ethic caused me to move up very fast. So in 6 months, the vice president, Milt Humphreys, gave me a raise, and I became an inspector there. Upon that, the 1,200 employees, some of them or most of them came knocking on my door asking me, who I was, because Milt Humphreys really didn't like anyone. He had been there 32 years and he was, an intimidator. People had a lot of respect for him because of how he ruled with an iron fist. So during that, I was asked to join the union. I joined the union. A couple months later, I became union president. So I went from, being an employee to being over 1,200 employees and working, shoulder to shoulder with Milt Humphreys. I learned a lot about employment cost. It's just not what you pay an employee per hour, but there's a lot more insurance, workman's comp. There's a lot more built into that. And, I got a chance to look at the finances when it was negotiation time for contract agreements. And so, there's a lot of details and a lot of different levels of departments that are involved when you're managing something that does hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. So that experience as union president also allowed me to go to Washington, D.C. every 3 months, where I was with Sanford Bishop, who was my congressman. He pretty much took me under his wings. I got a chance to go to caucus meetings. I understood how the federal government, the state government, and the city government work together because I was there to lobby for workers' rights. I was there lobbying for health care for workers, for teachers, for police officers, firefighters, nurses, those who serve the public just as well as a congressman or a senator or a governor or a mayor. So that experience, of course, in DC helped me when I got in the public sector. I was called upon by a hotel group to go to Austin, so I took a hiatus from San Antonio, and I took over 2 hotels in Austin. They were ranked like one of them was ranked 157 out of 183. The other one was ranked 181 out of 183. And I was able to use that experience that I gained over the years. And I put both of those hotels, one of them I put in the top 30 in Austin. The other one I put in the top 5 in Austin and improved the revenue significantly. So, I mean, the city of San Antonio is no different. You have to do things department by department. How does a mason build a wall? He built it brick by brick. So when you understand economics and you understand people, because that's what a mayor is in the people's business, then you're able to go department by department. Understand that, things are best accomplished together. And you create a team atmosphere where everybody's on one accord. And that's why I coined the phrase 2 decades ago, many hands and many minds working together for one goal. So I believe that, as mayor of San Antonio, I have the skill set to bring people together. That's proven. I have the skill set to increase and elevate a company. I've done that as a union president, and I've done that in the private sector. So as far as being a Black man and in this race, I don't think that's really the issue or something that needs to be looked at. I think it needs to be looked at as far as the ability of the person to perform the job. And nobody was a mayor before they became one. So the experience issue of not being one, you can throw that out the door because nobody has been a mayor until they become one. My name is James J. Melvin. Vote J in May.
Okay, so Chris Herring, thank you, James J. Melvin.
Thank
And I
you.
know that Jay McCullough needs to leave, and we want to thank you for your participation if you need to leave.
Yes.
And Were you going to leave too?
Yeah, I have to go
James
to another
Statement?
engagement, but I want to thank all of you. I think this is a very important issue.
Well, apparently he froze out. I'll address the question.
Okay.
So I believe that in this mayor's race thus far, I'm probably the single candidate out of 27 who has articulated that San Antonio, while we're the seventh largest city, has underperformed financially, whereby if you're looking at the GDP of San Antonio, we rank number 31 in the country. So when you look at the top 10 cities across the United States, typically the cities match or mirror very closely to their population. San Antonio stands out because of the ranking of the population versus that of where we actually rank. We don't truly overperform in the areas of international trade. And that's something that I've been focusing on and specializing in as the executive director for Global Chamber San Antonio. I also earned the markets of Austin and Houston, so I serve in those capacities there. Now, going to Mr. Smith's question in terms of my ability to manage budgets and the ability to work through those. When I joined the United States Air Force and I was commissioned at Boston University, the Air Force's philosophy is that they will grow you into being the senior leader so that you can manage millions of dollars of budget. You can also lead hundreds of thousands of troops. So I've had the fortune and the blessing of being able to manage budgets at, my last assignment with the Air Force Recruiting Service at Randolph Air Force Base was probably upwards to $30 million, using the Air Force's budget to recruit the finest young Americans from across the United States. When I look at the experiences leading up to that, that's a part of the training in which we get. And so when I hear people like Gina Ortiz-Jones talk about her experience as the undersecretary, and she throws out the Air Force budget that she had to manage. That's what we're trained to do. And so I don't knock her. I'm just saying that the military does provide a routine type of conservative training to how we manage money. When I was in the Air Force, I came across a gentleman named Secretary of Commerce Ronald Harmon Brown, who actually became my mentor. And so as I had this opportunity to meet Secretary Brown very early in my career, he gave me the advice of staying in the Air Force because I was thinking about getting out. He also told me to join Chambers of Commerce. And he says, and also establish a business. So I did that. I started my business while I think in the early part of my career, and I did retire for 20 years. So when I got to the point of retirement, the United Way of San Antonio bought me in as a loan executive. And so I helped to raise millions of dollars for nonprofits and in San Antonio. And I took that skill and actually led several nonprofits and managed their budgets in order to get these nonprofit startups going. I've been hired by companies like Goodwill or nonprofits like Goodwill. I was the vice president for workforce. So with that being said, we stood up veteran resource centers. And as a veteran, I went out and created the opportunity for veterans to get hired, employed, and so forth. I also, in my neighborhood, where I lived at the Bluffview of Camino Real, I was the president. I was elected the president by a very great group of people on the north side. And I had 444 homes. We had a budget that we had to manage to keep the upkeep of the Bluffview estates. I was proud that they trusted me with this opportunity. In fact, the mayor of San Antonio on 2 occasions, the city manager came to our community to talk to our citizens because it's one of the footholds of the District 9, the strongholds. And so being able to show the improvements there with the community, I think I showed great responsibility and trust. And now I'll say this, my volunteer work with the city of San Antonio as I was on this small business advocacy committee appointed by Julian Castro. I was entrusted by Mayor Taylor and then entrusted again by Mayor Nirenberg. I think I've served the longest time on the small business advocacy than any other person in San Antonio, almost a decade. And through that decade, I pushed and pushed and pushed so that we could get over the 50% of the procurement going into the local San Antonio marketplace. When the Sabeta ordinance was initially conceived, and Pablos would say that he was one of the people who created the Sabeta ordinance, San Antonio was only giving 5% of contracts to San Antonio business, to local San Antonio businesses. The other 95% were going outside of the city. And so the journey has always been to increase local procurement and trust and build it over time. And so under my leadership, when I chaired, and I was thankful to be elected by my peers to chair the board, we pushed very hard to get San Antonio local businesses the ability to have more procurement. So in the year 2018 and 2019, we went from 50% to 54%. And those were the years I chaired. And in fact, we won the award for having the best small business program by the International Economic Development Council. And I take pride of that, but I also know that most people didn't know that I served for 10 years doing the heavy lifting and trying to make sure that all minority and women-owned businesses had a chance to get a city contract. So I'm very familiar with the budget. I've been critical of the budget. I know that if you don't ask, you don't get in the budget of the city managers. And the city of San Antonio has recently made changes so that small businesses no longer, the city manager now has the ability to award small contracts up to $2 million, which means that he's the judge and the jury for all small contracts that we used to meet about, talk about, and distribute amongst our local businesses. And also we changed the Sabeta ordinance. So now there is no longer a city ordinance that puts the citizens over the city's economic development department, because the city manager stalled and waited to the very last month of the year to take a vote on a race conscious program that now he's made race neutral. So your concern and my concern should be, can the next mayor articulate the needs of our community? Can he stand in the gap? Because we know that policies have changed. And so I do have a proposal to enable us to have a local small business ordinance that is stronger than ever before, because we have to guarantee to San Antonio businesses, which are majority minority, that they will have continued support in city contracting. But without having a knowledge of that, your taxpayer dollars are going to go to other cities, to other states, and to other countries. So I'm very proficient. And actually, I think also which leads to this is that we have to prepare our next generation. I've done financial literacy. I've led financial literacy with young people. I've led it within the Chamber of Commerce. We had an EPIC leadership program, which gave our upcoming leaders a chance to figure it out and understand how the city works. We need to have more opportunities and seats at the table for us. And if we don't, then we're leaving it up to someone else, because they may have those opportunities that we were never provided. I'm thankful I was provided with certain executive C-suite positions that I can actually think about the money that I managed, the people that I led. My degree, I have 3 degrees. One is a bachelor's from Boston University. The second is a master's degree in human resource development. I got that from Chapman University. And the last degree is a master's degree in organizational management and leadership from the George Washington University. So I'm equipped, prepared, and I'm ready to serve as your mayor.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
appreciate that answer. So, Chris, I know you're the last man standing, so you got the hot seat. But no, I want to give you the opportunity to, and I thank you for the answer. Your closing argument. You know what I mean? So, what's your closing argument? I give you the opportunity to tell the community why you should be the leader of the community. And so, again, with understanding. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Doc.
And add to that argument, what have you learned to prepare our future generation of leaders?
Hey, can I ask one quick question? Do you have about 10 minutes? I want to ask a question before he closes up and says that. Is that okay with you, Dr. Sharon? And
Yes, sir.
I want to ask, You have not been endorsed by any of the major establishments that are in town. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And they have basically whitewashed you out of all of the debates that there have been within the city. And they've done that with all black candidates. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So my question is that with you and what you've been doing, and especially, I know you. I know you've been president of the chamber for statewide and different things like that. I'm asking you, have, especially in San Antonio, with the Observer, with Black Life Texas, have you or will you take an ad with one of those black established media outlets, or will you not?
Okay, thank you for the question. So, you highlighted the fact that I have not received major endorsements, but I don't use the major endorsements as being problematic because, as I indicated earlier, that I'm not Republican, I'm not Democrat. Many of the endorsements come from parties, and I'm independent. So when God gave me Proverbs 31 and He said, "Be the voice for the voiceless," that's all the endorsement that I need. In fact, I've led this race to be an influencer for the next mayor, whether it's me influencing myself or influencing someone else. And so I've tried to maintain having the best relationships with the 26 candidates because I know that one of them will be mayor, and we need to have a seat at the table. And so, as I've outlined, my real mission is to end poverty in San Antonio. Generational poverty has existed. We've seen the articles, we've read the stories. Bottom line is we've never taken it serious as a city. I don't believe in treating symptoms. I believe in actually providing a solution to the root problem, and that's where, if the people really want a solution, then I think that in the poorest zip codes that unfortunately don't vote would have the best chance of rebounding and being the families in which they really have always meant to be. In terms of the Black press, Black media, I've worked for the Black press in the past, so I'm not foreign to the Observer. In fact, the Observer just went over 30 years of service. And if you Google search Black businesses in San Antonio, the Observer comes up as a historic newspaper. In fact, the Register was one of our very first newspapers. And the Ali family has done a great job consistently to put out a paper that serves our interests. So salute to the Ali family. As we all know, this is about economics. So if I have it, I'll give it. If I don't, I won't. But as mayor, what I will say is that I will change the arrangement with our newspapers and our media companies. Meaning, if I'm elected mayor, I'm going to give a seat at the table for the Black press so that they can get the information firsthand, that it's not something that has to be passed down. I also believe that there's favoritism within the chambers of commerce. I've been a recipient of token crumbs from the city in terms of how they support chambers of commerces that are not the greater San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. And
Thank
I
you for
think
your
that,
answer.
yeah, so I just think that we have to do better to make sure that if you have a Black mayor who's going to be representing the city of San Antonio, my first priority is to manage poverty by zip codes. Those zip codes are in the South, the West, and the East that are the worst. So wherever the color comes out is where it comes out. But where the impact is, it's going to raise the level of play for San Antonio, where we are attractive to those cities, to those Fortune 500 and 1,000 companies. And then to your last question about how do you create a pipeline of support for our young people? Well, it's obvious. You fix poverty, you attract employers, you get mentor protege relationships established across the board. You energize our seniors who have something to offer, not just thinking that they're people who don't have an expertise. We build a score model for seniors that want to actively participate in our city and help to provide solutions and be mentors. Wow, I think we're going to energize our city. And that's what I want to do as mayor. I hope I answered your question, Chris.
Yeah, you did. You did.
Okay. And Curtis, you had a question, or did he already answer your question?
Can I also
Yeah,
share
so
with you?
no, my question was just I was gonna give him an opportunity to give his closing message.
Okay.
But I think Chris did bring up a valid point, and I think we should also kind of maybe do a deeper dive into that. And so, as far as the way African American candidates are treated, and that's with the knowledge, I think we're about 7% of the population, and however, even with us being 7% of the population, it seems like they've been determined to exclude African American voices and the potential to even gain traction. So even though we are 70% of the population, it doesn't mean that you can't attract other votes. You know what I mean, or that you or that you don't appeal to other, a wider demographic. And
Mr.
so,
Smith, Mr. Smith, what is your educational background, may I ask?
uh,
Here it comes.
we don't have time for that. so,
Uh, you have some unique qualifications. I just want the audience to know that.
okay. No. So yeah, you would just political science and international relations and things of that nature. So I got my Fletcher School shirt on right now. So
See, and that's my point. My point
Fletcher.
is that oftentimes we're looked at and we're looked over. We're almost like the invisible man. We're there, but we're not there. And so in my life, I've worked for executives, general officers, presidents of the United States. I've been mentored by the best, and the bottom line is that when people mentor you, there are results that come from it. So I'm built for this. And then what I would also say in closing, that I believe that we do need to be very critical about the next mayor. Meaning, when I saw the state of women report that just got released by the city of San Antonio, that all of our city council members, many of who are running, had access to, it shows the alarming disparity of longevity in the city of San Antonio. It shows that a woman that is born on the south side or in the east side has a 20-year difference of life expectancy than someone born in the north side. And so why is there a difference between South Cross to Stone Oak? That's something in which I'm not hearing other candidates address. And so I do want to say to all the ladies who are watching that I would declare a state of emergency for women in San Antonio, because we also see that there's huge health disparities. There's huge disparities with African-American women and giving birth, where there's a 2 to 3 times likelihood in this report that says that we will see African-American women die because of the labor. And so I'm asking myself, if there's health discrimination disparity, if there's housing discrimination disparity, if there's business and even our chambers having a disparity in treatment, we have to have a fair mayor who's going to say that equity is where we need to start, not equal, because every zip code that we spend time in has never been treated equal. So we need to do some quick repair to make ourselves attractive. So that way we'll have those Fortune 1000 companies to come. We can get better routes for our airport, and we can be the city that is not only 7th population, but 7th GDP. And that's why I want to be mayor of San Antonio.
Okay, then you have really answered my question in Curtis's response, with responding to Curtis. But I just want to say that I want to thank you, God, thank you and the other 2 candidates who came on, because as we're thinking of these topics for contemporary Black voices, this was you showed up to the studio Saturday, and here we are talking about the issues here. And so I'm grateful that you did come and sought us out to say, hey, I need to talk. And so as we say with contemporary Black voices, I know that Carl Booker is listening in. And so I'm excited for it.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you to each of you. Each of you are very inspiring. I've seen the political walk of Mr. Dawkins. That's how we met. Dr. Chadwell, look, y'all are all very great San Antonians, and I just hope that I have the ability to lead. And in fact, we're going to have so many different types of mayoral councils that will be standing up, but it's going to be the intelligentsia. It's going to be the people who are in the communities that have been, discounted, marginalized. Your show is great, but I would rather you be on the city stage so that we can make progress and change together and help lead a community that really needs to know about what we can provide. When we spoke at the National San Antonio Panhellenic Council, which are made up of the Black Greek organizations, I told the audience that they were the most educated group of people that we ever had been able to sit in front of to the mayoral candidates, because if you look at all those groups from AKA to Omega Psi Phi, community service is what they do on a regular basis. But do you ever hear them get the credit? So if we're going to fix public schools and we already have an investment of sororities and fraternities in these schools, then we should also see them be in the city manager's budget to help their existing activities to even do more. And so I thank you again for your time today. And I appreciate each of you. Thank you, Carl.
You,
Thank you.
And like we said, you are invited to the barbecue. But this is Contemporary Black Voices. And again, my name is Dr. Sharon Michael Chadwell. My panel seat buddies, Curtis Smith and Chris Dawkins. And again, we want to say thank you again to Chris Herring for for bringing this other panel of candidates together. And again, this is Contemporary Black Voices, where we tell our story our way.